Hello my darlings, I hope you're all doing very, very well. I hope you are sitting comfortably, you are cozy, and you have your, maybe not your snacks, but I hope you have maybe a beverage. You might be able to stomach a beverage throughout this video, but snacks, if you have a weaker stomach, this video may not be for your snacks. Because in today's video we'll be covering a tattoo infection, one that could have turned incredibly serious and deadly. I know that sounds very dramatic, but tattoo infections can lead to serious problems, and then serious infections can lead to death. It's kind of rare, but it does happen. But yes, I will be showing some pictures of a tattoo infection. So last night I got a DM from someone called Ashley who sent me a link to a Twitter post. I know it's called X, but we're not calling it X, okay? It's still Twitter in my mind, okay? But anyway, I got sent a link to a Twitter post from someone called Ashley, and I took a look at it. Oh boy, like I was just looking at it like, oh my gosh. And I read through this Twitter thread and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I was quite honestly horrified at this whole thing. Anyway, this story comes from Canada and from someone called Maddie. On her Twitter bio it says that she's a totally normal girl with a 100-page spirit box lore dog. I also write poetry, which is hella cool. I've been told a couple of times that I look like Courtney LaPlante, and I personally don't really see it. But yeah, anyway, Spirit Box is a pretty cool band in my opinion. Anyway, we're now going to talk about the tattoo. So Maddie starts off her Twitter thread with, I think enough time has passed and I'm ready to talk about my janky ass tattoo since the guy who did it ghosted me and I'm upset. So here's how my sick leg tattoo could have killed me, a thread. And again, like I was saying, it may sound kind of dramatic to say a tattoo nearly killed someone, but it does happen. I just want to draw your attention to something that was reported on This Year from the UK. There's this Metro article with the headline, "Man died of sepsis after getting tattoo at studio run from a garden shed." Obviously, I would always advise you to never get tattooed in someone's garden shed, but that's beside the point here. A man who was offering tattoos from a makeshift studio in his shed was fined £1,000 after one of his customers died from sepsis. Tony James Lamont, 35, of Middlesbrough, was found guilty of operating in a garden shed not registered to carry out tattooing at Teesside's Magistrate Court on Tuesday. Magistrates heard Lamont was first reported to the council in summer last year on May 9th after a man died from sepsis. Ben Larry, 32, had died 3 days before after contracting a serious infection and issued a warning to the public of dangers of unlicensed tattooists. His devastated family described him as a precious, adored, kind and caring son who was loved by everyone. This is just so freaking sad. So my beloved artist that's done 90% of my other beautiful tattoos moved away, so it felt like fate that I met a new tattoo artist at work one day, just as I was looking to get this piece. He worked out of a private studio, aka a room in an old building downtown, so I was nervous. But he told me countless times that he'd been doing this a long time and in multiple cities. I trusted him. Needless to say, I trusted him too much. My old artist would make me sign a waiver, spend a good 10 minutes cleaning and prepping, etc. Well, this guy did none of that. So obviously straight away we have a couple of red flags. I personally don't have a issue with private studios. I've been to a couple myself, but they are normally just like buildings and what have you, and it's like appointment only. Oh, my voice is struggling right now. You won't be able to hear it, but I can feel my voice straining so much. I had a medical procedure like almost 2 weeks ago, and it was basically Botox into my throat because I have a condition called RCPD. Anyway, it's hard for me to like talk, but I've got to do my job, so just bear with me. So the private studio type of deal isn't too much of a red flag, depending on, you know, what the cleanliness standards are and all of that. Maddie has just said that he didn't spend time prepping, which is kind of a red flag, and the waiver thing is also a huge red flag. I mean, in the long run, this actually works out for Maddie because there's no legal documentation. She hasn't like signed her life away with signing something, you know what I mean? Like with a waiver, you pretty much normally sign and say, I am responsible for this tattoo as soon as I leave the building. If anything happens to the tattoo afterwards, it's on you, kind of. You as the client. Some tattoo artists have things like that in their waivers, some don't. Make sure you are given a piece of paper that has check boxes, asking if you have any blood diseases, if you're allergic to anything, stuff like that. If you've been tattooed before, you know the deal. If I can find an example of a tattoo artist's waiver slash check sheet slash thing you sign before you get tattooed where you agree to what you're having and all of that, I will flag it up now so you can see what it looks like. So I found this one, and this is actually from Parliament Tattoo, which is in London. It's a very well respected tattoo studio in London. It has a great reputation. I've not been there myself personally. I mean, I'd love to, but yeah, this is super helpful, and it's very, very detailed and very, very thorough. So this is a great example of a good tattoo waiver slash consent form. We call them consent forms in the UK, but they are called waivers in other places as well. Anyway, going back to Maddie's story. He made me stand on the tattoo bed with dirty shoes while he hand drew the tattoo with a used Sharpie. Didn't wrap any of his equipment, used tap water to dilute his ink, used his phone without changing gloves, left me for 30 minutes mid-session to get food, was coughing, etc. So another red flag is standing on a tattoo bed with shoes. If it was wiped down and wrapped afterwards, not so much of an issue because it would have been cleaned, but if it wasn't cleaned afterwards, jeez, I mean, you shouldn't be standing on those beds with shoes no matter what. You should take your shoes off. I always take my shoes off if I'm laying on one of those things, mainly because it's just a bit more comfortable. Maddie did say that he didn't wrap his equipment, so I'm guessing the bed was involved in that, which is terrifying. And the whole cross-contamination thing of the gloves, oh my gosh. Do you know how filthy our phones are? It's actually quite terrifying. I think they are some of the most dirtiest things that we own because we're constantly touching them, touching other things, you know. I've just picked up my phone now. God knows what else I've touched here. I've got my laptop keyboard literally right in front of me. I haven't cleaned that in a few weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? And I've been touching all of this, and like, obviously I'm not a tattoo artist, so the cleanliness doesn't really matter. A tattoo artist should take off their gloves to touch their phone, or if they still have gloves on, they need to change them anytime they touch something that isn't to do with doing tattoos. So for example, their phone or iPad, they have to change their gloves. This is why tattoos are so expensive, because they go through so much equipment throughout your session. You don't even realise it. Anyway, Maddie continues with, half of these things I didn't even realise were wrong until talking to doctors and other artists afterwards. I was just telling myself that he was experienced and hey, people tattoo themselves at home, so this is probably fine. I was wrong. So wrong. So it kind of seems that Maddie doesn't know too much about the tattoo industry, and we cannot shame her for that. At the end of the day, it's not her job to know everything that there is when it comes to tattooing. Obviously, we know tattooing at home is not a good idea. It's not something you should ever do. You should always leave it up to the professionals. Like I have said in a few videos as of lately, social media has definitely impacted the way people see tattoos, and we see a lot of people tattooing themselves at home on social media, and it's becoming a little bit more accepted, I would say. Obviously, most people don't agree with it, but I feel like Maddie is not to blame in this in any way, shape or form. We should not be victim blaming here whatsoever, but this is why tattoo education is super important. Maddie then carries on saying, the next day I couldn't even walk. The swelling was so bad that I took off the wrap and washed it, but it looked bad. Then the worst muscle spasm started. I got a fever, was throwing up, still couldn't put any weight on my leg. I texted the artist and sent him these photos. So we're going to take a look at the photos. It just looks awful. Like, I'm not even talking about the quality of the tattoo here. I don't particularly think that matters in this case. I mean, I will say it's not the best quality tattoo. I know there is like an infection going on here, but you can see that the quality of the tattoo before the infection wasn't that great. But I don't think that really matters at the end of the day, especially with something like this, you know? As you can see, it looks so bruised and so irritated and angry, especially at the bottom half there on Maddie's calf. It looks angry, it looks weepy, and of course it is a new tattoo, so it's gonna probably look a bit shiny because the next day you always have tattoo plasma. You know, you wake up and your tattoo is a bit like leaky and gross. I thought I'd show you one of my tattoos that has a leaky moment. This is the next day after getting this tattoo, and I have second skin on, and all the plasma is kind of stuck in the second skin. and it just looks very juicy. But this is normal. And in case you don't know what second skin is, it's basically this thin film that tattoo artists put over your tattoos after you have them done, and it protects your tattoos, and it's freaking awesome. Not all tattoo artists use second skin. You can ask them if they do via email or messages before your appointment, or you can buy your own. But some tattoo artists stick to just plastic wrap, kind of like cling film, the type of stuff you wrap sandwiches in and all of that. And this is the close-up of the calf. This is definitely the bit that is the most affected or infected by this whole thing. It's very rare that I see redness and irritation like this when it comes to tattoos. The redness and irritation has spread way beyond the tattoo, and that is a huge indication of a tattoo infection. You do normally get irritation around the tattoo, but to spread that far, not a good sign. Maddie then continues to say, despite me saying I was throwing up, he told me it wasn't bad and to just let it do its thing naturally. So I did, until I woke up the next morning and had no choice but to call urgent care. I got put on 2 antibiotics and said it was definitely infected. The carelessness from this tattoo artist is insane. If a tattoo client says, hey, I think there's something wrong with my tattoo, I'm feeling very unwell, I'm throwing up, it's very red, it's very irritated, you as a tattoo artist have to advise your client to get to a medical professional as soon as possible. Put your pride far away, because obviously no tattoo artist wants to admit they've given someone an infection. But if you're a decent person or a decent tattoo artist who loves what they do and cares about their clients, you will do the right thing. You should do the right thing. I'm so losing my voice, I'm so sorry. Whew. Maddie also added some pictures to this tweet that I just read. I've seen a lot of infected tattoos. This is probably one of the worst ones I have seen. As you can probably notice, there is some markings around the infection, and I believe possibly that was the medical professional doing that. And it's a way to track where the infection is and to see if it grows and to see if it goes past where it was originally. I'm obviously not a medical professional, but I have seen this on Grey's Anatomy. I know I shouldn't get my medical knowledge from a freaking TV show, but it makes sense, doesn't it? And then here is another picture of the top half of the tattoo. As you can see, it is pretty dang bruised. And bruising is kind of normal depending on who you are. I end up with bruises sometimes with my tattoos. I just bruise very, very easily. Okay, I'm just a little peach. So some bruising is normal. I wouldn't worry too much about that if you do bruise. It's the other things you need to look out for if you think you have a tattoo infection. So again, severe redness and irritation, feeling unwell, oozing and weeping, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, this just looks horrific, and this is 2 days after having the tattoo. A tattoo should not look like that 2 days after having it. To some of you it may just look a bit dry and like it needs a bit of moisturizer, but no, this is a severe infection right here. And you can see in the middle there, it's red, like there is bleeding here. That is not normal, that is not okay. Maddie then carries on saying, I gave the tattoo artist an update, but he said it was probably a reaction to the second skin. Huh? That is not a reaction to second skin. I've seen reactions to second skin. You just end up with a red square or whatever shape the second skin was on your skin. When you take it off, it's red for the most part anyway. So I found these images on the internet. This is what I would say is an average reaction to second skin. As you can see, there is like a perfect square almost around the tattoo, but the tattoo itself isn't like infected. And then I would say this is more of an extreme reaction to second skin. As you can see, the tattoo itself is fine. I mean, it's a bit dry, but it's a healing tattoo, obviously. But again, the reaction is kind of outside of the tattoo. This is 100% a tattoo infection. Like, the gaslighting here is insane. The lack of accountability here is insane. Doctors said it was infected, exactly. So infected that 2 days later, I ended up in the ER as the infection was getting worse despite antibiotics. This is every tattoo client's worst nightmare. And this is why I will always promote going to a professional tattoo artist and never tattooing yourself at home, because stuff like this can happen. And, you know, Maddie thought she was safe here. She went to who she thought was a professional. And obviously it can still happen if you go to a professional in a tattoo studio, a reputable tattoo studio, it can still happen, but your chances are a lot less higher. So here are some more pictures that Maddie added onto this tweet. I can't even fathom how painful this is. Like, that just must be horrific. Like, getting tattooed is bad enough when it comes to pain, okay? And the couple of days after it can be pretty bad too. But to add a fresh tattoo and then have that infected and then feeling unwell on top of it, like, no one should have to go through that. And, you know, have zero help from the person that has done it. But as you can see, it's very irritated. It's literally weeping. We have this one as well, and I honestly have never seen anything like this. Like, dead ass. Like, I'm not being dramatic. I've literally never seen a tattoo infection this horrific before. And I think it's probably because of just how big it is. This is quite a big tattoo. Maddie then carries on saying, I was then on 4 antibiotics total. Luckily it didn't go fully septic, but if I had followed his advice, I most definitely would have. The healing process from here on left a 2mm hole in my shin and was the most excruciating and horrifying experience. This is enough to put you off getting tattooed forever. I would have trust issues for the rest of my freaking life. And as you can see, I mean, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And this is while Maddie is on antibiotics. Could you imagine how bad it would be if she wasn't on antibiotics? I dread to think. I literally dread to think. So as we can see here, it's super weepy, super red, irritated. And then we have this as well, as you can see from the tissue that she is holding. It's obviously leaking all sorts of nastiness. Your body should not be doing this. Okay, it's not normal. I mean, it's the way the body reacts to a infection, obviously, but after a tattoo, you should not be leaking yellow stuff. Okay, that's not normal. Maddie then carries on saying, 1 month later, and while I should be happy that the tattoo is almost healed, I'm so embarrassed. The tattoo as a whole looks like absolute shit. Not just because of the infection, but simply because he did a terrible job. It's full of blowout. The shading is terrible, etc. So here are the pictures she added to this tweet. Luckily, as you can see, it's almost calmed down. It still looks a little bit dry in places, which is going to. It's still recovering from the trauma that it's been through. It'll probably take a few more weeks for that to heal up as well, but thankfully, Maddie is on the road to recovery here. Maddie then continues to say, with tip, I paid $1,250. $1,250 for this tattoo. I also missed days off work, had to pay for antibiotics, and fuck, I don't know if I ever want another tattoo. With $1,800 in losses as a broke student, I reached out asking for a partial refund back from the tattoo artist. I laid all of this out, his negligence, and how ultimately I just hate the tattoo. I'm mortified. He responded to one email saying he'll offer me free touch-ups as compensation, as if I'd ever trust him again, and told him that simply ain't enough. From there on, radio silence. What is it with these freaking tattoo artists and their lack of accountability? I simply do not understand. This is very clearly a tattoo artist's fault. It happened pretty much instantly. This isn't because Maddie, you know, didn't look after the tattoo properly, or Maddie rolled around in some dirt, or Maddie, you know, splashed some toilet water on it or anything like that. This is a tattoo artist's fault. And I for sure know if I was a tattoo artist and I somehow gave a tattoo client an infection, I mean, I couldn't physically like live with myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I would feel awful. Like the fear of tattoo artists Maddie will now have is absolutely insane. Like if I had put that level of trauma into someone's life, I would be heartbroken. Why is this tattoo artist taking zero accountability? Why is there no, oh, I'm sorry, like not even like a sorry, you know, like a, oh, I'll just do the touch up for free. And then what, for Maddie to go through all of this again? Absolutely freaking not. Maddie deserves a full ass refund. And then here are some more pictures of Maddie's tattoo. Again, it's dry. The quality of it is not great whatsoever. Maddie then continues to say, what I learned, go to a shop where they have strict sanitation policies, other artists there to keep them in check, and make sure you read and sign a waiver so you're aware of all the risks of a tattoo. Hopefully one day I can financially and mentally afford to fix this. Edit, I won't post his name yet because he's fairly known in Vancouver. Thousands of followers, hence my trust. And because I'm looking into legal options, just being careful. But if you live in Van and want to know, please DM me. Thanks for all the kindness, offers to fix, and donations. I love you. I fully understand her want to not out the tattoo artist. She's given enough clues, so there's a chance that if you live in Vancouver, you may know who she's talking about. Obviously, I don't live in Vancouver, so I am very unaware of who this person is. Even if I knew, I wouldn't want to out them in this video because I don't want to hinder any legal action that may take place, and I truly hope that Maddie does take legal action. She has every right to do. She could have possibly died. She didn't sign nothing. The conditions weren't right. The tattoo artist is obviously very negligent. Last edit, getting tons of DMs. Sorry if I don't get to yours. Didn't expect this to blow up. Hoping I can say more, give a public update soon, but for now I'm being cautious, legal stuff and spreading awareness. Also, this is Vancouver, BC, and the artist doesn't work out of a shop. So the tattoo artist will have absolutely no other tattoo artist holding him accountable because there's no other like employees around him. There's no one that's going to be there being like, hey, you need to speak up, or hey, you need to apologize, or hey, you need to do better. We have a lone wolf tattoo artist going on here. But yeah, Maddie has said that she's had offers from other tattoo artists to fix this tattoo, which is freaking great. Hopefully she... Ooh, my light just fell. I feel like I'm starting to see a increase in tattoo artists being super careless and just not giving a flying fuck about their clients. And I don't know whether this is something that has been going on for years and years and years and we've just never seen it because obviously social media wasn't that prevalent, because obviously the tattoo industry has been around for many years. But I feel like over the past couple of years, we're just seeing tattoo artists be absolute a-holes. When I first started making content, I didn't do coverage of stories like this because I honestly don't remember ever seeing stuff like this. I feel like in the past couple of years, honestly since TikTok has been around, the tattoo industry has gone crazy. What is that about? Maybe people are just voicing what's happening to them a bit more, maybe for just awareness, to say, hey, this has happened to me, make sure it doesn't happen to you. And that's why I've made this video, to be like, hey, this is what can happen to you, please be careful. Like I was saying before, look out for the red flags. Make sure you sign something, make sure the studio is clean, make sure the tattoo artist acts as professional as possible. But yeah, just be safe, be vigilant. You just have to go with gut instinct, and sometimes the gut instinct does fail you, like it has failed Maddie. But again, I'm not going to blame her for this. She did what she thought was a good thing. She went to someone who she thought she could trust, and it didn't end up going right, to put it politely. But yeah, I wish Maddie all the best. I'm so glad that she has recovered. I did comment on the post last night when I was sent the link to it. I said, this is so scary and horrifying. Screenshot every communication you have with him, and if you can, get a lawyer. He owes you way more than what he's offering. This could have 100% made you horrifically ill, more so than you were, or like you said, killed you. Maddie has got so many comments, and obviously Maddie probably doesn't know who the hell I am. She probably doesn't know that I make like tattoo content or whatever. I don't expect anyone to ever know who I am. You know, I'm not like some kind of do you know who I am kind of thing. I'm gonna stop rambling now. I need to rest my throat. It feels like it's on fire. Yeah, the muscles in my throat are not doing so good right now. So I'm gonna go. Thank you for being here and watching, and please be safe out there. Be careful, make sure you go to a good tattoo artist, a good studio and all of that. And sometimes these things just happen anyway, but just be safe. Okay, thank you, goodbye.